Maria placed her hand over her belly. Trembling, cold sweat ran down her spine as she whispered a silent prayer. "Let her live. Please, let her live." After 6 years of miscarriages and pain, she was finally about to become a mother. But the child inside her didn't belong to Samuel, her husband. She belonged to a stranger, a man whose face she barely remembered. A mistake wrapped in one unforgettable night. Then, a scream, a cry, a baby's first breath. "She's perfect," the doctor said. "Strong heartbeat, healthy lungs." Tears rolled down Maria's cheeks, not of joy, but guilt. She'd just given birth to a lie. Samuel rushed in moments later, eyes sparkling. He held the baby close to his chest, speechless. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She has your lips, and maybe my eyes." Maria forced a smile. He didn't know. He could never know. "What should we name her?" he asked. Maria's heart skipped. "Aliyah," he said, "a gift from heaven." Maria nodded slowly, and deep inside, something told her this gift was going to take everything from her. Samuel was obsessed. From the moment Aliyah opened her eyes, he rarely let her out of his sight. He changed every diaper himself, refused to let nannies hold her. Even when Maria offered to help, he'd say, "No one can care for her like I can." At night, he rocked her to sleep in his arms. In the mornings, he was the one who picked out her clothes, tiny pink dresses, bows for her hair, socks with little hearts. "She's my princess," he would whisper. "She deserves nothing but the best." Maria watched, uneasy. It wasn't just love, it was too much. She tried to joke. "You're treating her like a glass doll." But Samuel didn't laugh. "She's delicate," he said, with a tone too serious. "And she belongs to me." Maria blinked. That last sentence lingered like smoke in her ears. As the days passed, Maria noticed something else. Whenever she picked up Aliyah, the baby cried. But in Samuel's arms, she would instantly calm down, cooing and giggling. It hurt more than she admitted. One afternoon, Maria walked into the nursery and saw Samuel shirtless, holding Aliyah to his bare chest. "She likes my heartbeat," he said with a smile. "She sleeps better this way." Maria stood frozen. Something inside her screamed that this wasn't right, but she said nothing. By the time Aliyah turned 2, she followed Samuel everywhere, from room to room, like a shadow. If he went to the bathroom and closed the door, she cried. If he stepped outside without her, she screamed. She no longer wanted anyone else to feed her, not even Maria, only Samuel, only Papa. He loved it. "She's special," he'd say, eyes soft. "Our bond is rare." Maria watched the two of them curled up on the living room couch. It looked sweet, but something felt off. One day, Maria brought a neighbor's boy over to play with Aliyah. As soon as the boy touched her toys, Aliyah pushed him, screamed, "No, only Daddy plays with me." Maria tried to scold her, but Samuel stopped her. "She's just not used to other kids yet," he said calmly. "Don't force it." Something inside her whispered, "This isn't fatherly love anymore. This is something else." Aliyah was 4 when Samuel started choosing her clothes with unsettling care. He stopped letting Maria shop for her. Instead, he'd bring home delicate dresses, soft silk, lace edges, little shoes with heels. Maria raised an eyebrow the first time she saw them. "She's a child," she said flatly. "Not your date." Samuel didn't flinch. "She likes pretty things," he replied. "Besides, she looks like a little lady in them. So graceful." At first, Aliyah beamed when he dressed her up. She twirled in front of the mirror as Samuel clapped. He often took photos, dozens, sometimes hundreds, lining them up in a private folder labeled "My Star." Maria once opened his laptop by accident and saw it. Every image posed, every smile for him. Her stomach tightened. She closed it quickly. Later that week, Maria found Aliyah wearing red lipstick. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "Daddy gave it to me," Aliyah giggled. "He said, 'I'm his little queen.'" Maria's heart dropped. She stormed into the living room. "Samuel, this is too much. She's a child, not your doll." He looked up, calm. "And I'm her father. I decide what's too much." Maria stared, stunned. Somewhere deep down, a quiet voice screamed, "He doesn't see her as a child anymore." Maria walked into the bedroom and stopped cold. Samuel was sitting on the edge of the bed, Aliyah between his legs. He was brushing her hair, slow and careful, humming a lullaby under his breath. She wore a nightgown too thin for the season, her tiny legs bare and curled into his lap. Maria's stomach twisted. "Why isn't she dressed warmer?" "She said she gets hot," he answered without turning. Maria took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but something inside her whispered, "He likes this." Later that night, she woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen. On her way back, she heard soft giggles coming from Aliyah's room. The door was slightly open. Samuel leaned in and kissed her forehead, then her cheek, then just above her lips. She couldn't unsee it. She slept in the living room that night. Maria sat in the garden with a cup of tea, staring blankly into the trees. For weeks now, she'd been pushing a feeling away, a feeling she didn't want to name. It wasn't just the shared beds, or the lipstick, or the way Samuel's hand lingered on Aliyah's back. It was how he looked at her, like she was his, not his daughter. His. That morning, while folding laundry, she found one of Aliyah's shirts, tiny, soft, with a faint scent of Samuel's cologne. It didn't belong there. She hadn't worn it in days. Her breath hitched. She walked to the mirror, stared at herself, pale, tired, afraid. What was she afraid of? That she'd let it happen? That it had already started? She picked up her phone. Her fingers hovered over a number. Her sister's. A woman who once worked in child services. But she didn't dial, not yet. Instead, she waited till night. When Samuel went to take a shower, she entered his study, opened his laptop. The folder, My Star, was there. She clicked it. New photos. Aliyah in her nightgown. Aliyah laughing. Aliyah kissing his cheek. One photo with their noses touching, his hand cupping her face. Maria felt like throwing up, and yet she closed the laptop slowly. Did nothing. The doorbell rang just past noon. Maria opened the door to find her cousin Grace. standing with a bag of mangoes and a warm smile. "Thought I'd stop by," she said. "Been too long." They sat in the kitchen catching up. Laughter flowed, but Mariah was distant, half listening, half trapped in her thoughts. Then Aliyah entered. She was barefoot, wearing one of her thin dresses again. Samuel followed behind, adjusting the strap on her shoulder. Grace paused mid-sentence. Her eyes narrowed. She said nothing, but something shifted in her tone after that. Later, when Maria walked her out, Grace leaned close. "Can I ask something?" Maria nodded. "Why does Samuel touch her so much?" Maria froze. "What do you mean?" Grace hesitated. "I'm not accusing him, but it didn't feel right. The way he looks at her, how she clings to him. She's 7, Maria, not a toddler." Maria laughed it off, too quickly. "She's just attached, that's all." Grace didn't push, but her eyes said it all. That night, Maria sat in the dark living room, replaying Grace's words over and over, and for the first time, she wondered if she'd been lying to herself. Maria waited until Aliyah was asleep. She found Samuel in the study, sipping tea, scrolling his phone, calm as ever. "Can we talk?" she asked. He looked up, surprised, but nodded. "Of course." She hesitated. Then, "I've been thinking, maybe we should pull back a little, give Aliyah more space." Samuel blinked. "Space?" "She's getting older," Maria added. "She needs privacy, boundaries. We both do." A silence. Then Samuel smiled, soft, patient, condescending. "She's 7, Maria, not 17. "I know, but..." "You're overthinking again. You always do when you're tired." Maria opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. Samuel stood and walked over, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I love that little girl more than life itself. You know that, right?" Maria nodded slowly. He leaned in, kissed her forehead. "You're a great mother. Don't let fear poison your instincts." She wanted to believe him. God, she did. But as he walked away, humming a tune Aliyah loved, Maria stood frozen in the hallway. Something was off. She just couldn't prove it. Not yet. It was supposed to be a normal day. The internet had been down, and Samuel called a technician to fix the modem. Maria was in the kitchen, chopping onions, when the doorbell rang. "Just the repair guy," Samuel called out. The man, mid-30s, polite, stepped in and nodded. Router's usually in the study. Samuel led him there. 10 minutes later, the technician walked out with a puzzled look. "Sorry, just need to restart it. Should only take a minute." Maria smiled, still distracted, but she caught the hesitation in his voice. Later, as he packed up his tools, he glanced toward the hallway, then back at Maria. I don't mean to intrude, ma'am," he said quietly, "but I saw something." Maria tensed. "What did you see?" The man looked genuinely uncomfortable. "Your husband was holding your daughter on his lap, shirtless, and she wasn't fully dressed either." Maria's stomach dropped. He quickly added, "Maybe I misunderstood. Just wanted to mention it, in case." She forced a thank you smile and closed the door, then stood there motionless, hands shaking, because this time it wasn't just in her head. Someone else saw it too. Maria didn't sleep that night. She sat on the couch, hands clenched, listening to the soft hum of the fridge, the occasional creak of floorboards. Around 2 a.m., she rose, quiet. She tiptoed down the hall and opened Samuel's study. The laptop was there. She knew the password. Birthday, his, not Aaliyah's. The folder was still labelled My Star. She clicked it open. Hundreds of photos. Aaliyah in different dresses, sleeping, laughing. One picture stopped her breath. Aaliyah on Samuel's lap, both of them looking into the mirror, his hands wrapped around her waist. Then, videos. She clicked on one. It opened to Samuel brushing Aaliyah's hair while she sat on the bed in her nightgown. He leaned in, kissed her cheek, whispered something she couldn't hear. Aaliyah giggled. Maria paused the video, her chest tight. She backed out, closed everything, and erased her tracks. The next morning, she acted normal, made breakfast, packed lunch, kissed Aaliyah's forehead. But inside, she was screaming because now she knew. Maria had uncovered the truth. But she never knew that the plans Samuel had for her would shock and surprise everyone. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss part 2 and see what happens next.